it has jumped the shark. And Brenton, I want to see it jump another 10 more.
Now dig on this.
Yo, what up? And welcome to Classic Movie Banter. You know that podcast where me, that guy Brenton, and that other little guy over there, Nathan.
Ka-chow!
I don't know why I called you little, but we talk about films that are 20 years or older. 20 years, or in this case, more specifically...
42 years!
Thank you very much, Nathan. That's why you're here.
It's the only reason. I'm like that kid in the orchestra with the little triangle, and I just have my one little ding, and then I've done my job, you know? Like...
Absolutely. You just live for the ding, you know what I mean? Anyway, we talk about films that are older than 20 years, or in this case, 42 years, and we tell you if those movies are still worth watching today, and more importantly, if they're worth throwing on your big screen on a Thursday night, getting your mates around and pointing lasers at each other. It's another week, you know what I mean?
Isn't it?
We're a weekly show. We're a weekly podcast. We talk about movies all the time, and what a week it's been.
Brenton, what an extraordinary week it has been. Oh my goodness. Brenton, we're still waiting to die. No Time to Die. It's coming out at some point. So
some point in the near future. Near being the key word, as we don't know if it's near or far, but we'll find out. It's in the future, though.
It's in the future. And, we're in a month again where there's 5 weeks. So here we are returning to the Bond franchise, Brenton.
Whoa. And what joyous film are we reviewing this week, Nathan?
Moonraker.
Well, it's good that we're chatting about Moonraker. And the only reason we're chatting about Moonraker, one is because we have a rule with Bond films that we review a Bond film every month that there is 5 weeks within that month.
Yeah.
So it's a little tradition here on Classic Movie Banter. If you haven't listened to the show before, I should say. I mean, you could watch us, but that'd be kind of creepy because you'd have to break into Nathan's house. But the reason we chose Moonraker is because we actually got a listener letter, which is something we do every week. You guys can write into the show via email and let us know what films you'd like us to review. We'll take those into consideration, and who knows, maybe we'll review the movie that you suggest for us to watch. So this week we got a letter from Ryan from Brisbane. Hi, Ryan. Hope Brisbane's good.
Hi, Ryan.
Hey, Banter boys. I know you shit on a lot of Bond movies. He's not wrong. But I personally think that Moonraker is an underrated one and probably the most different of the Bond movies, which might mean you might like it as it's certainly a standout during a Bond marathon. Looking forward to when you cover it on the show.
Oh,
well,
thank
hey,
you,
Ryan, today's your lucky day because we are covering it on the show.
So sit back, Brenton. Sit back and strap on because, oh boy, are we going to go through a whirlwind of a movie.
Lucky Ryan.
Yeah, and just so it happens as well that we're doing a double bill on, what is it? What's the name of the director? Guy Hamilton or whatever?
Yeah, it was directed by Lewis Gilbert.
Oh, Lewis Gilbert, sorry.
You were close.
One of them. So yeah, the same director as Alfie. So that's coincidental.
And funnily enough, Moonraker was also released in 1979, which is a real coinky dink, isn't it, Nathan?
Who would have thought? So from Alfie to Moonraker, oh boy, what a career this old chap's having, dude.
Well, Nathan, on that note, could you please pitch me Moonraker?
Can you pitch me the movie?
All right, so imagine, listeners, that Brenton, is a studio executive who's sitting back on his big armchair in his office and he's smoking a nice cigar, and then...
I know they really have to stretch that imagination.
Oh, boy.
I will stop interjecting, but I will step out of the room and I'll suck my cigar. Sorry, Nathan, continue.
So he's sucking his cigar, he's probably got a fat suit on, and, he's thinking about all the money he's making. As he's smoking his cigar, he can hear footsteps from outside the corridor, and they're getting louder and louder. Then suddenly the door bursts open, and it's me holding all these box office receipts. Brenton, movie executive Brenton. Have you seen all the bank that Star Wars is making here in the late 70s?
Bank? What bank?
Brenton, movie executive Brenton. It's Star Wars. You know the film Star Wars. It's making hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hundreds of millions? Holy shit.
We're MGM, I think, or United Artists. We're one of the studios. And do we have a Star Wars related IP?
We don't, but we've got Bond.
Oh, Bond. Well, there's only one solution to get this same level of box office. And maybe this plan kind of works. The plan is that we'll make James Bond, but Star Wars, Brenton. We'll put him in space.
Nathan, this is the best idea you've ever come up with. Please elaborate.
Oh, thank you. I'm just so high on cocaine. It's the 70s. Here's what we do. We take a normal spy movie, right? We make probably most of it a normal spy movie, but we give the audience a tease that eventually Bond will go into space. Because you know what? If in the future, if Fast and Furious can do it, if Mission Impossible can do it, by God, will we, the James Bond franchise, be able to do it. Go to space.
Nathan, that is, without a doubt, one of the best ideas you've ever come to this studio with.
Thank
so
you.
we'll take it under consideration, and by under consideration, I will give you $34 million, and go ham, go make that movie.
Thank you so much. Oh, and by the way, we're going to use Roger Moore again because he's the current Bond. It's the 70s.
Oh, cool. Exactly like Harrison Ford.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. To a bone. Give that man a blaster, I say.
Oh, Nathan. Well, that was a good pitch. I got to
Thank
say,
you.
like all jokes aside, all cigar sucking aside, I think that was a good pitch.
You're
So,
gonna flick your cigar at me as I run out the room. I'm like, all right, I'll go make the movie.
let's get into this. I
Yeah.
guess let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's wet the mop. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Nathan, what did you think of Moonraker?
Oh my god, I have been waiting like so long to talk to you about this movie. Like, because even going back, right, like hearing on the paper of James Bond in space, that only is enticing, right? That's like that picture's so perfect, and like everyone knows this about Moonraker, right? So like, I watched this with my mate James a couple nights ago, and like we were just watching it, and Brenton, this might be one of my favorite movies ever.
Whoa.
This has not only injected life into the Bond franchise, it has jumped the shark. And Brenton, I want to see it jump another 10 more because this movie is fucking outstanding.
Okay, so Nathan wants to see Bond jump another 10 great whites. That's awesome, dude. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad it's one of your favorites. That's a big claim. One of your favorite movies. I mean,
This just the sheer volume of fun that you can have in this movie. You think the fun's gonna stop, but then you think the roller coaster's slowing down, but then Brenton, there's another corkscrew. And we're bloody here for a long ride.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm in the queue line, giddy for this ride, Brenton. I'm looking over to you, and where's your excitement levels at, mate?
First of all, I'll just finish your initial thought, and I'll say, like, one, I'm so glad for you. Two, would you say, I just want to ask you a quick question before we go to my
go for it,
thoughts.
mate.
Would you say it is the equivalent feeling of when you say watch something like Wild Wild West as opposed to watching something like a network?
Look, to be frank with you, I don't think the James Bond series has ever tried to be high art. You know what I mean? It will never try and be a network. Like
Totally.
we've had dalliances with it, and you know we've had tastes of it thematically, but we never had a James Bond film where Bond like literally sits back with a cigar and goes, "Let's talk about philosophy." You've had hints of it, like Judi Dench's M in Skyfall when she's at court and that kind of stuff. Like maybe, but honestly, no. I think it's definitely more a Wild Wild West direction. But it's fun,
Yeah.
Brent.
Okay, I
It's
feel
fun.
you. It's that fun-filled
But are you on the fun train, mate? Choo choo choo.
choo choo choo, get in that tunnel. Nathan, my thoughts are this. As many of our regular listeners know, I am not a huge fan, some would say, of the Bond film franchise.
No, an enemy
In fact,
almost.
The majority of the films I dislike.
He has the same attitude with people.
So going into this, I've got to say I was deeply shocked to find that I was consistently surprised during this film. Is what I'll start off by saying. Whether it's the characters involved, whether it's the plot, whether it's the spectacle of it, whether it's the tone of the film, it was all just really quite shocking to me. Which meant that I was kind of on the edge of my seat. Like I was engrossed by what was happening because I wanted to see where it was going and kind of why it was going in the first place. Then it came to a point and I realized I was really enjoying myself, which was a nice change of pace.
You always have got a grin on your face.
And then I realized that this enjoyment was becoming like a giddy enjoyment, and I was almost enjoying the film in spite of itself. So, so on the contrary to like, you know, my regular Bond shitting, let's say, when I shit on a Bond film, I gotta say I had a great time. Whilst, like you said, this is nowhere near high art, I really appreciate it, and I had a fun time. Sometimes that's just what you need, you know what I mean? You just need some stupid pulp.
You just need some stupid shit. Because the common criticism of this movie in particular is that it doesn't feel very James Bondy, right? Because people are like, oh, this is barely a spy movie, you know? Like, there's no realistic way that James Bond will go to space. You know, there'd be lasers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's way too silly. That's such a common thing about this. But to be frank with you, Brenton, I feel like the James Bond franchise really fucking needed this. Like, because like it feels different for a good reason. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like when you see Iron Man like fight aliens against Thor, you're like, wait a minute, where was like the high-tech stuff from Iron Man 1? It's like, no, this is the bloody direction the franchise needed. Should it have stayed here? Probably not, but I'm glad it went there.
Yeah, well, I'll say on the back of that, I think that I appreciate about this movie is that it doesn't hold back. It just embraces fully the campy spy flick, which is kind of what some of the other like earlier Bond films are trying to be like, but they don't want to go too far. They still want to be grounded in some sort of sense of I don't know what, because I don't like those movies. But this one, I like that it embraces the funner elements and it really embraces like the silly spy flick elements of Bond, and it kind of uses those elements to an excessive degree, some would say, and I think that's where the criticism comes, because it is a film in excess where it's like this film has probably the most gadgets of any Bond I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
It felt like there was a new Bond girl in every scene in this film.
Oh my god, so many. It's like a kid trying to impress you with their bedroom and they're just throwing toys at you going, what about this one?
The villains in this film went to like total extremes that really, in terms of like the sillier aspects of the sidekicks, those are just fully embraced and made into something that's just absolutely kind of ridiculous and almost like comedic. The main villain himself is just...
He's a classic Bond villain.
Oh, it's just like the Bond villains and all Bond villains, and I don't mean that necessarily in a good way. I mean, like, it's just so Bond villain that you're like, whoa, this is a lot of Bond villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Look at that forehead.
So yeah, this movie just takes all of those little aspects of Bond and it just exemplifies them to an excessive degree. And hey, some people will love that and other people will be like, what the heck am I watching? This is just like, I might as well be watching space fantasy at this point.
But here's the thing, at the end of the day, it's fun. And it's fun that they did all this kind of stuff. Like, and to be honest with you, I know I shit on the Bond films a lot, especially when it comes to its story. But I kind of like how ridiculous the story is because inherently, James Bond is a silly franchise. You got one man saving the world consistently. Like, it's just ludicrous to begin with.
Totally.
And it's so funny. At the start of the movie, it feels grounded. And slowly, it's like the film kind of just takes off its layers and it starts to show us its true form as it becomes this like silly sci-fi fantasy. And it's great for that. Like, I just felt surprised in the Bond film, which is so fucking rare. And I'm so glad you brought up the villains as well. Like, can we say who the two villains are?
No, we can't. We're gonna save that for spoilers.
Because the second villain, there's such a hook if you want to watch this movie to say who's in it.
Exactly. And I want people that are listening along to the show that listen to our reviews before they watch the films.
Yeah.
I want them to go in blind.
Okay, yeah.
And
because the greatest joy I think you and I both had watching this movie, because we were messaging each other when it happened, was when the second villain comes on screen and we fucking lost it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
we did.
We were cheering.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, and not only that, I would say that this movie does, because on the face value of those moments, you go, oh yeah, you know what you're in for. Like I said, it's Bond to the extreme. But then it will flip it on its head sometimes, and you'll be like, oh, cool, it's doing something new. This is stupid, but why not? This is fun.
It's very stupid and very fun. And like, Christ, this feels so fresh. Like, it's just like, I mean, you brought up the Bond villains, that's great. And you brought up also that like the Bond girls, we cycle through a fuck ton of them. It's like, probably not to the same rate as Alfie, but like we're still, we're still going through a fair bit of them.
Oh dear. Look, to let our listeners know, don't worry. There is no mention of birds in this film, so you should be fine.
Which is so good.
You should be fine. You should maintain your sanity. You'll be fine.
What did you think then, Brenton, of the main girl? What did you think of Dr. Goodhead?
Is that her name?
That is actually her name.
That was her name.
Her name was Goodhead, which is just so Bond.
Man. Oh man, wow. Okay. Look, I mean, like, I'd say that none of the Bond girls in this film really stand out in my memory.
No, sadly.
There's no pussy galores. There's no.
But Goodhead's a pretty good name. Not gonna lie.
there's no pussies in general, but like there's just Look, she's fine. She's good.
Yeah.
I like her. I like their dynamic. There's an element of her that I like as in terms of her occupation. She holds her own in certain situations, which I enjoy. But yeah, she's not a Bond girl that I'm gonna walk away and be like, whoa. That was, she's in the top tier of Bond girls, whatever that means.
Yeah, I hear you. I find it a little bit annoying in the sense that like she's a CIA agent, right? And like, she's this doctor, the CIA agent, but we don't really see her fight that much, which is kind of annoying. Like she keeps on.
No, but I get into this in spoilers, but she repeats the same, let's say, fight move like 7 times in this film.
So like,
it's like a signature move.
Like, it's the fight choreography is like shit. Like, there's no beating around the bush in that kind of sense. But I kind of have a fondness to it. Like,
yeah.
Speaking of weak henchmen, what did you think of Mr. Kimono outfit guy?
Who?
There's a Japanese bloke, who's a henchman.
Oh
in this movie.
yeah. Oh Nathan, that's another moment in spoilers we need to talk about. There's a moment that involves that character.
Right.
That I had a dramatic reaction when I was watching this film, which I'll talk about later.
I hear
but
you.
yeah, hey, I mean I couldn't remember who you were talking about. So
right, there you go.
So I mean, like, again, he's not that memorable. But I think it's not necessarily his fault. I think he's not as memorable because there's other characters in this film that kind of blows that I guess that part out of the water. So
I hear you. Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes literally. Nathan, in terms of going back to technical aspects, I was going to say let's go talk about the action set pieces. Beautiful. Because again, they're here in abundance. There are so many new environments. Like there's so many new vehicles, chase scenes. It's got it all, this movie, and I really enjoyed basically all of these. I thought there was some that were done for like comedy. There was some that were very serious, and then there was some to show off some new gadgets and things like that.
It was a good mix, wasn't it?
Exactly. It didn't ever feel like it was in abundance, like there was too many, and I was getting over these moments in the film. I was enjoying these moments for what they were, and what they were was very good. So yeah.
Yeah, they were really, really good. I thought the movie had some of the best opening sequence I think I've ever seen in a Bond film. Like the opening was really bloody good.
Yeah.
The film hooks you straight away.
For many reasons.
And it's funny because the movie ends in space, so obviously that set piece is just balls to the wall bonkers and excellent. Even the set pieces in between I thought was really good. I thought they were well paced. In saying that though, did you find the movie to be long, or did you think it was well paced?
I thought it was pretty well paced, if I'm being completely honest. Which is shocking again for
For a
me
Bond
to be
film.
saying that about a Bond movie.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, like I said before, I was engrossed when I was watching this. I was having a good time. It was scratching an itch that I'd wanted this series to scratch for a while.
It's good. So then would you recommend starting with Moonraker? Like, would you say this would be a good first Bond film for people who haven't gone into the franchise? Like, this is how you get hooked in?
No, because I think that to appreciate it, you need to watch a couple of the other ones.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You know the essential cause to making a Bond movie, so that when you go to this one, you can appreciate the fact that it not only reaches, I'd say, a higher peak in entertainment, but it also does the things that those other movies do better than some of those other movies, and maybe not better is the right word, but it just doesn't like to excess to the point that like you were just like, if you're not enjoying this, it's probably because like I can understand at the same time why people don't enjoy it. Because for instance, like, when we go to space and knowing what we know now about space flight, about space
it's ridiculous.
traversal, I guess the science of what's actually happening in space, it's like absolutely ridiculous. But again, it's kind of fun.
It is kind of fun, but I kind of like that it's a bit shitty. Like, I think this movie has some of the worst spacewalking I think I've ever seen in my life. Like when they have to pretend there's zero gravity.
Totally.
Like it's so bad. It's so funny watching Roger Moore and a Bond girl just like awkwardly doing like a moonwalk kind of thing across like a space station, and it's so bad.
Well, what did you think of the effects then in this movie, Nathan? In terms of special effects, how those moments are captured?
We can kind of copy and paste my criticisms for Star Wars, the original ones, special effects into this, because like the model work is bloody great. And you know what? Like my favorite moment in the movie actually was when we first see the space station, and there's this like beautiful shot of like the sun coming over, and the soundtrack is, by the way, perfect. The soundtrack is amazing in this movie.
Yeah, it's really good.
And like the sound, and you see the space station, like whoa, and it looks so believable. But then you see like these little shitty like cutout rockets kind of like come towards it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We're in the 70s.
Totally. Yeah, it's a huge juxtaposition. It has moments of greatness and moments where you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So like when we're on Earth, the practical effects are great, and like maybe my favorite practical effect might be in this movie, or my favorite prop for a practical effect might be in this movie.
Interesting. We'll talk about that later on.
In saying that, with like the special effects and that kind of stuff, because we love this, right? So we're really on board with the fact that this Bond film is like going to new places and doing new things with it, and kind of being a little bit more outlandish. In saying that, do you wish then that Bond today did a little bit more like that?
I'd be interested to see a Bond that was really corny and campy and fun. Like I think that'd be really cool to just.
You couldn't imagine Daniel Craig going to space.
No, I think it'd have to be the next Bond. It'd have to be, who knows who they'll cast as that. I think, I would like to see that, because we've spent the last few years trying to find the tone of the Bond one, the Daniel Craig ones. Whereas Casino Royale was almost like, the Dark Knight or the Batman Begins of Bond. And they realized that they had to still make it a bit pulpier so they could keep the this very passionate fan base in on like, textbook Bond moments from Bond from the past. So it was like, it was trying to integrate those tropes into the idea that Casino Royale set up. And it's always been, I find, the last like 4 or 5 Bonds have been like trying to find the perfect balance.
Yeah, and also that's kind of like Spectre's main pitfall. It is impossible. But that's like
totally.
the reason that Spectre kind of fails in a way, because it tries to be really goofy, and then Daniel Craig just looks so fucking miserable every time someone says something stupid. So like,
yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I'm as we've seen like half the Bond films now, and I feel like this one is as Bondy as it gets. Like it truly doesn't feel like a Valda Piece kind of one. Like
totally.
Like, it doesn't feel any less ridiculous than Bond dressing up as a clown. It doesn't feel any less ridiculous than like Pierce Brosnan like trying to stop a satellite from blowing up all these things. Like it feels as normal as any other Bonds. Like I'm sad that we don't go to space more, if anything.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And like it paid off, dude. This made a fuck ton of money. So like it's great. I don't know what else there is to say in the non-spoiler section, dude.
Well, I got one last thing to bring up, and that is just in terms of performances, I'd like to talk about Mr. Roger Moore.
Give me more of him.
What an absolute champion. Like honestly, he's up there fighting for the top spot for my favorite Bond. I really love him. I think he's
definitely got some of the best scripts and best lines.
Absolutely. I think Sir Roger Moore, even even though he's obviously he's a bit older in this movie, I just really enjoy him as Bond. But despite that, I really enjoy him as this character, and I like what he did with it. He has that balance, like I said before, of just, playing the spy whose morals we really question, but at the end of the day we root for, or just the goofy, silly kind of get smart type of the character, which is just like all that silly, goofy spy fun.
I can see Steve Carell doing this.
Could you imagine if Steve Carell signed on as the next James Bond? I think there would be an absolute uproar. I think people would be absolutely livid.
But then it would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I'd love to see that. Yeah,
I'd love to see that too. And it's true. And like Bond, to be frank, doesn't have much to do in this one. He kind of is like shepherded between like locations and things. Like at the end of the day, he gets the best lines in the movie, and like he has such good puns, and like only Roger Moore can sell that.
Absolutely, yeah. Roger's fantastic. Which I guess was just my real point there. And should we get into rating this thing and get into some spoilers where we're going to hang out for a while?
We're going to hang out there for a while. Yeah, I hear you. Look,
you're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
Honestly, yeah, I think you were right. You were really nailed it on the head before, Brenton. I think definitely don't start with this one. Maybe watch like 2 or 3. Maybe watch like, On Your Majesty's Secret Service and maybe GoldenEye, maybe some Casino Royale, get a taste of it, and then bloody get some popcorn and get ready for the extravaganza to end all extravaganzas. Because this is a film of escalation, Brenton, and oh boy, does it escalate for all the right reasons.
It escalates for all the right reasons and for some of the wrong reasons as well. So, but we'll get into all of that in the spoiler section.
Yeah, giving it a thumbs up for the Thursday.
Yeah, I will actually. I think I'd love to watch this on a Thursday night with a bunch of friends and just chill out and watch this Bond. I think it'd be lots of fun. I think we'd all have a few laughs and
and this is probably one of the few Bonds I've wanted to watch again, like soon.
Agreed. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so fucking good. I'm so happy, Brenton. I'm in a good mood. I didn't think this was going to be the Bond that would bring me up, but I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, it was almost like I guess my perception was that it was going to be like so bad. Like it was going to be so bad that it was going to be like one of the worst ones we'd seen, if not the worst. No. And that just hasn't really panned out, which is a nice surprise.
It's competently made. The set design's extraordinary. Like everyone's delivering. Like it's great.
Yeah, totally.
Mate, let's bloody spoil this thing.
You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh. Okay, let's get into it. You know where we've got to start, don't you?
Oh my god, let's address the elephant in the room, and the man is quite literally the size of an elephant. Mate, I fucking screamed and applauded when Jaws came in this movie.
Oh, he makes his timely appearance once again. And it's the way he made the appearance as well, when he's bloody just parachuting down and you just see him smile. And for a second I was watching this and he smiled and I was like, holy shit. Like I was like, it kind of clicked at first, but I was like, surely not. Surely not. And then next minute we get a close up of Jaws trying to like gnaw off like James Bond's like ankle with his bloody metal teeth. And I literally lost my little mind in that moment. And I was like, oh my giddy god. That is absolutely brilliant. It's so good to have him back.
It's so good having him back. We both didn't know he was going to be in this movie. So like, it's just such a welcome surprise. And he has way much more to do in this movie than the last time we saw him.
I know. Yeah. And he's going, but the other thing is as well, which I think people might criticize, but I just really enjoyed because I'm a big fan, is that how much comedic work he does in this movie. Like how much of his role is just pure comedy. Like it's so absolutely funny. Ridiculous.
Like he's the comic relief in this movie, and I love it because like I think they saw the first movie where he's genuinely threatening, and he's like Bond's quite scared of him.
Yeah,
but like I think the producers saw him and they're just like, this is a ridiculous man and a ridiculous character. We're gonna go to space. We have to bring back the most ridiculous henchman. And it's so funny. I got a fun fact for you as well. Lewis Gilbert, the director, he got all these letters while they were making the movie after they announced that they're gonna have Jaws in it from all these fans around the world saying, why can't Jaws be a good guy? They're like, why is he so mean? Like everyone was just like, so because they got all these letters, he persuaded the producers to make Jaws eventually have a redemption arc and become a good guy in the movie.
Isn't that ridiculous? But you know what's funny is that's like, again, it's one of those moments that just absolutely blindsides you and shocks you.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, wait, what? We're not just going to have some rando battle between Jaws and Bond. He's going to team up with Bond and they're just going to like wreck shit together. And I was all there for it.
I was so sold.
It was such a great moment.
It was a little bit unbelievable, but you know what? I'm like, I sat down, I'm like, you know what? I can't use the word unbelievable when it comes to Jaws because this whole fucking movie is unbelievable. So I'm like, you know what? Run with it. And like, oh my God. It's just like, he has such a fun journey and every time he rocks up, it makes the scene automatically better. Like,
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And he has a line of dialogue in this movie, Nathan.
Oh, he does. Oh, and it's a classic trope of like the monster who's so well spoken. Like,
Yeah.
what does he say again?
Oh, this is what I was trying to remember. Like,
Yeah.
at the start of the show, I said to Nathan, there's a line I'm trying to remember, and I need you to help me. And I was like, oh, don't actually worry. We'll wait till we get to this point in the show, and I'll just ask you on air. And you don't know either.
No,
So
but it's great because like he's sitting down with his girlfriend and they're like the space station's about to blow up and he just pours some champagne. And I'm like,
Is it like Here's to Us?
yeah,
Or
like,
something
yeah, I think
that?
here's
I'm
to
gonna
us.
look it up.
I think it is, yeah.
Bond Jaws only line.
We come to the show really prepared.
Oh, here we go. Jaws champagne toast. It goes for 20 seconds on YouTube. I'm watching it again. Oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous.
It's so stupid.
Oh, he's biting the bloody cork off the top. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is. It's here's to us. That is the
Oh.
most ridiculous thing still. And it's even better a second time watching it.
Oh.
Nathan, where do we start with this? He's got a girlfriend. He's got himself a girl.
Yeah. Okay. Can we talk about how he gets the girlfriend as well? Because it literally comes out of nowhere. Like Jaws, like we'll talk about the cable car scene as well. The cable car scene finishes and like, which by the way should have murdered Jaws immediately. Like he should not have survived.
Absolutely.
Like actually, you can say that for any scene that Jaws is in. Like he survives death like 12 times in this movie.
My favorite line in this movie
Yeah.
is literally when he's like in the like middle of that satellite piece that just goes spinning off into space, and Bond's like, don't worry, he'll be all right. I was like, really? I mean, I guess you're right.
Like,
I mean,
he survived just as bad things. Like,
I mean, like the first scene of this movie, he like crashes through a bloody circus and like lands on a trapeze net or something and survives that from like skydiving.
oh my
from
god,
however many meters in the air.
When it cuts to the circus, I'm like, are they actually going to do this? And you just see Jaws just like the zoom in on his face. He's like, it crashes into the net. Like, I kind of wish, there's that James Bond film we reviewed where it finishes in a circus and he disarms the bomb.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of wish it just ended with like him doing that, then suddenly Jaws just crashes in through the sky, just like at the end of it, like they just crash it.
Absolutely.
They cross it over.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
too good.
But
Makes sense.
But Jaws, like he comes in through the cable car. Actually, maybe we should talk about the cable car scene. Let's track Jaws' journey through this movie because like we'll get to the girlfriend. What did you think of the cable car scene,
Mate, it was bloody wild.
Oh, wasn't
it? There was slapstick humor in there. There was brutal violence.
Oh,
There was some what do you call it, when he slings the chain over the cable and he rides it down and then Jaws chases him. Like there was a chase scene on this cable car.
I love that the way that Jaws stops the machine is like he doesn't like pull a lever, or doesn't press a button to stop it. He just literally grabs the wheel, like the gear that turns it. He just like pulls it off.
That was good.
Oh.
And then my other favorite bit is like how he like decides to like start wrecking the cable car is that he just grabs the cable and bloody just takes a munch.
You can so see that the writers were just like, how many things can we do with the guy with superpowered teeth? Like you can see they really went to town with this.
But Nathan, I gotta say, I'm so glad they did because it's
Oh.
ridiculously entertaining and fun.
It's so good. And then like, and it's funny. So that prop that he bought into is actually black licorice that they used to represent the cable car wire.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Wow.
So Jaws had to buy it for that a couple of times. But yeah, so anyway, he gets into the cable car, and I love the fact that like he just like zip lines down to like the bottom, and like you can see his henchman, like his little friend, like just like just monitoring the cars, and then like his friend kind of realizes that they're crashing too quickly, and then Jaws just fucking like KOs this like cable car station. It's so good.
Let's talk about as well, like when when he's just like hanging out. Like one of my favorite scenes with Jaws in this movie is when he like sneaks up behind Bond and the Bond girl when they're on the space station. And he captures them.
Yeah, and he just kind of taps him like.
Yeah, and then Bond looks up and goes, well, shit. And then he reaches over and taps the Bond girl, and then she turns around. And then there's this awkward shot where he's just standing behind them like,
It's so good. And I love that like Jaws' go-to move, like when he like attacks Bond, it's him just kind of like walking about with like his arms kind of extended out, like waddling a bit like a penguin. Because he's like a vampire. He just goes to grab his victim and then just like, just kind of gnaws them.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. On the back of this, my other favorite moment is kind of, and it's just such a small thing, it's to do with costuming, is that like everyone's in spacesuits on the spaceship, right? And Jaws is there like in dress pants, a white like button-up shirt and, like,
his normal clothes.
and suspenders, and I'm just like, what is this guy doing?
It's so good. It's so fucking good. And I love that moment as well when he's on the space station with his girlfriend, and Roger Moore's like, wait a minute, if your plans to make like a master race, that doesn't include Jaws. And we see like the little gears in Jaws' head turn as he like has his redemption arc. Like the camera kind of pans between like Jaws and the Bond villain, and he's like, you can see Jaws be like, wait a minute, and his girlfriend's just like ogling up at him, just like, it's so good.
Well, here's the thing as well. So I've said already that I lost my shit when he came on screen, but I lost my shit when the team up with Bond happened.
Oh my god.
He's helping him escape. He's like, taking out henchmen left, right, and center.
It was the same kind of joy I felt when Captain America picked up Thor's hammer. Like, it was just like where you thought such a combination couldn't be possible.
And yet here it is. And like when like Bond like calls Jaws over the intercom, and he's like, Jaws.
And I love when, because the movie doesn't explain who he is till the very end. Like, the Bond girl's confused the whole time, and then like Roger Moore says casually, "Oh, by the way, that guy's Jaws." He's like, he hurts people.
It's too good. It's so stupid, but it's so much.
But it
fun.
is pretty stupid how the movie introduces his girlfriend, because there's this huge cable car wreckage, and then for some reason, like this woman, just like who's like half of Jaws' height, like just walks up to him just amongst this wreckage, and just like and just kind of like smiles.
And
at
they
him.
literally just smile at he smiles at him, and then he like gives his ugly grin back, and then she's like, "Oh," and you're like, "Wait, what?
Like, where did she come from? What's her story?"
Why are we cutting away from this? Like, keep it going.
Yeah, it's just so all over the place. And then for some reason, like he convinces her to come onto the spaceship or whatever, and she's just kind of standing about, and like she doesn't have much to do, but she looks just like so young. She's for some reason she's got these like blonde pigtails, and like she's in this like kind of, she looks a little bit German, like old school German. Like it's great. I think they tried to make her literally look like a doll as much as possible.
The thing about her too is like when it like culminates at the end, like literally the space station is just tearing apart, and like Jaws and her both find like a champagne bottle of like Bollinger or something, and then like two like champagne glasses, and they just sit there. And when Jaws just chomps off the end of that champagne bottle, and it makes the cork popping sound, and they like pour the wine together, and he says his one line. I just couldn't believe what I was watching. It was absolutely hilarious and incredible at the same time.
It was so perfect, man. And it's so funny because like the nitpicker in me will be like, wait a minute, the zero gravity is definitely broken by this point. It's like they should just be floating about, and that champagne should not be pourable. But I'm like, I don't even care. I just love the fact that like this is happening. It's so good.
Yeah, it was for me again, like, and I think for the both of us, it was kind of out of nowhere, which just made it all the better.
I know, and that's the kind of thing I want to say then on spoilers. Like Jaws alone makes this movie, even if they didn't go back into space. The fact that they have Jaws in this just makes it so much better.
So much more of a finished product. Now, Nathan.
Yes.
We've spent most of this spoiler section so far just talking about Jaws, but there was a whole other part of the movie that didn't involve Jaws. So let's talk a bit about that. How did you find the canal chase scene?
Oh my god, Brenton, I want to go to Venice so much now. Like, well, that's what I was alluding to before. Like, that's what I was alluding to before about saying like my favorite prop in like a chase scene or whatever it is. Like, it was the boat.
Yeah,
it was the boat that is revealed to suddenly have an inflatable like floaty thing beneath it, and then it fucking goes on land. It's so good.
My favorite thing in that scene as well is like when it goes on land, and it has a little montage of like the guy like with his like bottle of wine, and he's just like pouring a glass, and then he like looks at the car / boat hybrid, and then he's like, whoa, and then he looks at the alcohol like, that's some strong shit, and then the scene just continues.
The extras make this movie, man, because like especially in Venice, like it's so fucking funny. Even I laugh so much just at the start where you just see like Bond going on a Venice boat ride by himself, like he's just kind of like he's just kind of going down the canal on his own, and Roger Moore's just kind of like looking about. And I love the extras in this scene because it then cuts to like a couple like having their romantic boat ride, and then like Bond's like having his little chase scene, and he cuts the boat in half, and the guy who's like paddling the boat is just like so awkwardly sinking into the river, and the camera like holds onto it for like a good 10 seconds, and he's like it's just falling in. Oh, it's so good.
How about that assassination attempt when that assassin just like sits out of the coffin with the knives, and then like instantly gets knifed back, and then his coffin falls in the water? Like, it was just ridiculous.
And he just watches his coffin just like sink along the river. That one bloke's just having a dart by the bridge, and he's like, what the fuck? He's like, what's this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I love the irony. It's just so much fun. It's so much fun, dude. And like, it's funny, the last boat chase we would have seen was when bloody Pierce Brosnan did it in The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
And like, this trumps that easily.
How about that boat chase though? Because there's two boat chases in the one where there's like the mines, the torpedoes in the water.
Oh yeah,
Bond being chased by Jaws on the boat. Like, that was pretty cool.
Holy shit! That one hit that blows up the boat, and the fucking extras go flying. Like, they go like 10 meters up. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, the boat stuff's probably the best I've seen. Like, it was really bloody good.
What about the villain, dude? Like, what about the villain's plan to basically like just wipe out the human race in honor of I guess what what would you call that he's doing? It's basically just genocide.
It's just genocide.
He's basically cherry picking people based on their appearance.
Well, it's eugenics,
right? Their genetics. Yeah, sorry?
It's eugenics, right? Like, that's, when you try and create your own, like, master race. Like, he's just like...
Exactly, yeah.
He's just this white supremacist. Like, he's an arsehole. But he's, like, so deliciously a Bond villain. And obviously his plan is ridiculous. Like, the fact that he can get away with this. But, like he steals his own rocket and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's just... And he's so deliciously evil. I love the fact that he just bought the Eiffel Tower. Like, this is a universe where that happened.
Yeah.
They just mentioned it casually. And he's recreated... I love that the fact that they said he recreated France in California. Why would you just not be based in France?
Yeah.
And he's got all those women, like, exercising outside his, like, his mansion. It's just... He's so good, dude.
What about his dogs? What a great
God.
use of it. Was like Ramsay Bolton before season 6.
That's what I was thinking of as well. I was just waiting for Jon Snow just to rock up and punch him to death, like.
Yeah, well, when she like runs off into the woods and he lets like the Dobermans off, I was like,
Oh my
shit,
God.
we're gonna get a dog hunting scene. Yeah.
I liked her as well. I really liked that Bond girl. I was really cut actually when she died.
I actually liked her a lot too.
Yeah.
But don't worry, because there's an abundance of them in this film,
geez,
so
aren't there?
she'll soon be replaced.
Oh yeah, can we talk a little bit about that bloody space spinny thing? Like,
Sure. Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh, that brings me on to my next point. But yeah, keep going on this for now.
Because like there's a scene where like Dr. Goodhead's introduced and I'm like, Jesus Christ, because we hear about her before we see her. I'm like, I bet anyone called Goodhead is definitely a Bond girl. And she rocks up and she's like, oi, do you want to test out this like spinny thing? And it's so funny because like Roger Moore has definitely twigged that something is up with these guys. So he still voluntarily gets into
Yeah.
into that Vomitron kind of like spin space shuttle thing that just goes around like 1 billion miles an hour. And she kind of straps him in and she's like, have fun. And I love that like as he's going around, like she kind of walks out and the Japanese bloke comes back in and like dials it up to death. Like that's an actual metric on like on this thing.
Yeah, what a moment, hey? Like it was so ridiculous, and how he got out of it with his he got out of things so many times with his little wrist gun.
This is the most useful gadget Bond's ever had. Like he saves him like 10 times. in the
I
movie.
agree.
Yeah. Can I tell you about a world record that was broken with this movie?
Absolutely, you can.
So this Brenton, this I think this movie still holds the world record for the most fake glass ever broken in a movie before.
Wow, which glass was that?
So there's a scene where they go to a glass museum, and I love it so much because we follow this tour group going around, and the tour guide's like, "This is the most valuable glass in the pond. Like, look at these vases," and they're like, "It's worth all this money." And you can so see that the film spends this much time because Bond's gonna fuck it up. And lo and behold, like 10 minutes later, the fight scene like carries into like this room with like the Japanese bloke because he's doing his one karate chop. Obviously, hasn't seen Drunken Master, and like they're smashing everything, like everything that's there.
It's too good, isn't it?
It's so bloody good, mate. So yeah, and like, how does Bond end? He just like throws the vase at the bloke. Like, it's bloody great. Oh yeah, does he like stab him with like a sword?
When's this, sorry?
Bond grabs like the sword at the end of that scene and he stabs the Japanese bloke, and that's how like he dies.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, bloody brutal. It's great.
Any other spoilers? I'm just trying to think throughout the film. There's
dude,
so much.
There's so much shit that goes on in this movie. We haven't even talked about the actual like. Do you love at one point in this movie that this film segues into like the Dollars trilogy? Because we get like a brief shot where like James Bond's in like a poncho riding horses with the two other blokes.
Oh my gosh, it was such a rip-off of the Man with No Name. Like the whole outfit and everything. I was like, oh wow, here we go. We're going into a Western for fun.
It's great. It's so good. Oh no, that's what we didn't finish before. We didn't finish talking about Drax. I like for once we finally get a Bond villain be self-aware in that sense. Because Drax says to Bond at one point, "I'm running out of amusing ways to have you die." So because like the whole film, like, why do you just shoot Bond? You have Bond right there. Like also all the other Bond movies, just shoot him. You have him sitting there, pull a trigger. But Drax is like, no, I like coming up with amusing ways for you to die.
I guess I wonder if he has any regrets about that.
I mean, probably. It's pretty funny the way that Drax ends up dying. The way Bond, probably one of the best death scenes I've seen in a Bond movie.
That's true. Yeah, off he goes, like off into the ether of space, just hanging out, sucked out of the vent.
What do you think about all that? Like the whole space battle. Like it's pretty ridiculous.
Oh, Nathan, it's literally the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It was like they tried to recreate the Death Star versus the bunch of X-Wings. But they just got people on like space jetpack things with like fake lasers in them that were like shooting blue light back and forth.
Oh my God.
It was absolutely so stupid, but also like super hilarious at the same time.
They even rip off Yavin 4 because at one point like Bond goes to like an Aztec kind of like temple thing and like there's Q inside it with like the lasers. I was like, wow, they really love Star Wars here. You can see why.
They definitely do.
I mean, but the rockets aren't obviously as cool. It's like, oh my God, how fucking stupid was that opening shot of like is that how you like get a rocket from one place to another? You literally plump it on top of a plane.
Hey, why not? Why not?
I'm just like, this is so stupid, but I love it. Like, what a great way to start. Whatever happened to those models? We never found out what happened to like, the pairs of couples, you know, that were taken up into space.
Oh yeah, I guess they're just dead. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, they're just gone.
Because we meet a couple of those girls before, and we realize like, oh yeah, because there's that awkward. I forgot about this. There's that awkward scene where like Roger Moore like first finds the Bond lair, and these girls kind of just like silently come out of like the bushes, and then Bond's just like, and they're surrounding him. Bond's like just like staring about, and then he just happens to step on that one plank of wood that just like throws him into the water, and he beats up a fucking snake. It's great.
Oh my gosh, yes, yeah. And then I loved that when he crawled out, Jaws was there just looking down like, hey.
Oh, it's so good, and it's like the fakest snake I think I've ever seen in cinema. Like.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's just like, it's like they bought like a $6 anaconda from like, you know, the local toy store. It's like a plushie. Oh, it's so good.
Too funny indeed.
So we talk about great lines in this. There's obviously like the best line in the movie is the closing line, right? And it comes from Q.
Yeah.
It's so, because we had this ending happen before. I can't remember which Bond film it was where like they broadcast Bond to like all the government officials. We had this happen before, right?
One wasn't to like the whole government, but the other, but it was to like a small group at ATYP, and then the other ones were bigger. But I'm not quite sure. I can't remember.
Yeah, there's been a couple of them because obviously there's like, you know, Bond in the bloody skateboard in the ocean at the end of one of them, and then there's another one where like, you know, the helicopter's coming to rescue him and he's making out with a girl in the grass. But the fact that Q like finds Bond just like floating in space with the Bond chick, and they're like, what is he doing? And then Q's like, I think he's attempting re-entry. It's just priceless.
Oh, dude, that was like probably like honestly, it was probably the best line in the movie. Like it was so ridiculous. Like it was one of those moments I chuckled out loud. I think like it was just absolutely smack bang in your face.
But just overall, I just gotta say, there's just too many good moments in this movie, mate. Like we'd be here for days, but you know, maybe we should dive into some special segments.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like I agree. Like you could honestly talk about every scene in this movie. It's so full of content.
I'll just say before we do, listeners, let us know what your favorite scene was in this movie. Because if you're one of the people that loves this, like, what have we not talked about? What's some of your favorite moments? Like share with us like your favorite stuff, Nick. Because there's so much shit that we still haven't touched.
Please do write and check us out on our socials and get back to us.
Special segment. Ooh, so special.
Would this be a good theme park ride?
Brenton, imagine you and me at Universal or whoever owns the rights, and we're walking down the streets with a little bit of fairy floss, and we suddenly see Moonraker, the ride. We have to take it. We have to go in. What do you imagine it would be? Would it be a roller coaster?
Okay, so here we go. I know what the carriage is. It's like it's on rails. It's on rails, but there's like elements to it that are kind of really sci-fi, and it's kind of like I think like Space Mountain maybe. But I think what it would be is the cart that you get into is one of those like space jet packs that the Marines wear, like in the space battle. That's like what you're in. Like there's two of them together, and you just go through various scenes, but it's kind of fast paced. And next thing you know, you're in space in a space battle, but it's like the James Bond thing, and the blue lasers are going. And then maybe you're on the cable car as well. You're going through the cable car, and you see Jaws, and he leaps out at you, and you swerve out of the way.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Keep going down the cable car. You have the canal chase. You have the boat chase.
So you reckon we're going through the whole movie, not just a space battle?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a point as well that you might stop, like when the Moonraker takes off, and you're with Bond, and the Bond girl like stuck in that kind of exhaust area where like all of the flames from the thrusters are just gonna like incinerate.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
you, like,
right.
You dodge out of the way at the last second and stuff. Like it's just built to be a theme park ride,
isn't it? Though
it would absolutely set the world on fire.
Do you reckon before the ride starts, we'd get like? Do you reckon we get like a little message from M or like Roger Moore being like, "You've been selected as a part of the US's response for the Moonraker project. We need you to save the Moonraker." And like, suddenly you have to like step in like the carts, and he's like, they bring back M, and he's looking really grumpy as to say this dialogue, and he's like, "Now make sure you keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times." He's just like,
could you imagine? Because like, yeah, M introduces you to the ride, but they're always like, "Oh, and you'll be assisting Bond in his mission and whatnot. Like, look out for Bond." And at the very end of the ride, as so happens in all these like, you know, themed rides, this like animatronic of Roger Moore, like Sir Roger Moore, just like pops out. It's like, like, could you just imagine that? Like, does Roger Moore like pops out, and he's like, you know, half naked, and he's like, "I've got to get back to re-entering," and he just like slips out of the, you know, out of the room or whatever, and you're just left to like climb out of the cart and like go back to your day, and you're like, all right.
He's just floating, and he turns his head back to the audience, and he's like, "Congratulations on a great day, great day of work." And it's like, "Now, if you don't mind me, I'll be going back to it." and like some disgruntled like theme park employee just like comes and he's like, "All right, out this way." Like this kid's job is just watching Roger Moore just fuck like all day.
Yeah, you just go back to your day wondering why on earth that in the year 2021 there is a Moonraker ride at said theme park. Like it'd just be so random.
To be frank with you, I would be as excited for the gift shop as I would for the ride, because as we like go through the exit,
oh my gosh,
I want the little Jaws teeth so bad.
Yo, oh my gosh, that's what I was going to say. I just want like my own little set of Jaws teeth that you just put in.
It's like black licorice, like the same as like the cable. Like it'd be great.
Listeners, if we ever set up a mailbox, like a fan mailbox where you send us like letters and fan mail, whatever, the first person to send us the Jaws denture kit, like they will be my absolute hero.
Oh my goodness. There's only good things that can come from this There's only good things that can come from this gift shop, mate.
Agreed.
Oh.
Too good.
So good.
Too good.
In that same vein then, would this work as a video game?
Absolutely it would. Could you imagine a spy thriller set in space?
Oh.
Like, where you...
I'm surprised it hasn't been done more,
Oh, totally. Like, we should have more Bond games. I think it's because maybe some of them suck, but I mean, like the GoldenEye game set the world on fire. So maybe if it was more on that line, I think it'd be fun. But again, I think I tell you it would be cool if it was co-op and then like player 2 at a point got to play as Jaws.
Oh my god, that would be amazing, dude. I would be so happy for that. Like, it'd be cool as a fun little shooter and that kind of stuff. Like, can you imagine it'd be like, or maybe you could even make it like a racing game. You could even just have like, the Venice track and then you could have like the space track. Like
Sure, why not? Why not have some racing elements? Yeah, I just think it'd be really cool. I think this would be a really cool thing. I think like at the end, like that final space battle is just like prime video game content.
I can see it being like a quick time event as well. Like, like you're jumping through like, press X like as you're like running through like the thing just to dodge all the debris. Like it'd be great.
Yeah, or like the quick time event like of the last moment with the bad guy where you like raise your hands like because he's got the gun.
Yeah.
You shoot him with your wristwatch and then you like blast him out the exhaust. Or the air vent, sorry.
Yeah, it's this game that you can carry across to all that kind of stuff. Like, part of me kind of wants just Sandra Bullock to rock up, like from Gravity, just like floating about. Like she thinks this is the space station that will save her, and all this madness is going on. Just like,
okay, here's a question. You know how she travels past that space station that's just been absolutely wrecked because the debris already been through it?
Yeah.
Like, what if that space station was the space station from Moonraker?
We just see the little like Moonraker like logo on the side of it, and there's like for some reason Jaws is still alive, and like he's kind of like waving at Sandra Bullock from the inside. It's just like, oh, not this one. Like, so I'm gonna try the next space station.
Yeah, you know the scene where like she hallucinates that George Clooney. You know the scene where she hallucinates that George Clooney's still alive, and he climbs in the capsule. It's like Jaws just like climbs in the capsule with Sandra Bullock, and she's like, hello, and he's like,
here's to us.
And he like chinks a champagne glass with her.
And she's like, I gotta get back the fuck to Earth. Like, that'd be great. Oh, it's funny because Clooney is very Bond-esque. Like, you could almost like there's a lot of crossing over between this Gravity movie and Moonraker. Like, Clooney could be a good Bond.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not throw Clooney in there?
But to be frank with you, the one franchise I do want to throw these characters into, I thought, Brenton, we could replace our staple special segment, MCU, where we put characters into the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
Fuck the Marvel Universe. I don't want to see Jaws and Bond in that.
Whoa.
I want to do Star Wars U. I want to put these characters into a Star Wars movie.
Here we go.
How would this
so
work?
Imagine we're watching Star Wars: A New Hope.
Yes.
We go into Mos Eisley Cantina and Luke and Obi-Wan's like, they're looking for a smuggler. They're looking for someone to get them off planet. And over in the corner is Sir Roger Moore, and in place of like as Han Solo, and in place of Chewbacca, he's just got Jaws with him. Like,
like Jaws is awkwardly like sipping some blue milk through a straw, like because he can't really like fit the cup in his mouth.
Or like, and then they play like that space version of like the space chess from Star Wars, and they're like, be careful, like Jaws will rip your arm off with his teeth.
He's just a surrogate for Chewie. Like, that'd be great. No. When they have in A New Hope, when they have to escort Chewie as a prisoner, but instead of like Chewie in the cuffs, it's like Jaws. Like,
yeah, they try to put him in the cuffs, and he's like,
Jaws is just whacking him. Oh, it'd be great. I would love to see just like, like that stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The scene in Return of the Jedi where they're like, oh no, the walker, the AT-ST is coming at us. And then suddenly like, when Chewie pops up the top hatch, like it's just Jaws that pops in.
He's just knocking him down. Oh, it'd be so good. You could staple him you could put him into anything and it would work so well. Look, like visually, Jaws just looks great anywhere. I kind of really want to have that scene where like Obi-Wan, like Alec Guinness is like walking around the Death Star and he sees Vader and he has that kind of shocked face, but then the camera cuts to just Jaws. And I'm gonna like, ooh.
Oh, the possibilities are endless. What if you like put Jaws in the prequels? Where would he go?
Oh, if I had to put Jaws in the prequels, I kind of want him at the wedding for Anakin. Like, he's the priest or whatever. Like,
Wait, What a random place for Jaws. That's great. Yeah, like the camera pans from like, Golden C-3PO to Anakin's like new hand, robot hand to just Jaws' teeth.
Actually, no. Where I want to put Jaws in the prequels? I want to put him in the pod race, because what I want him to do is that I want him to have his own little car and to like verse Anakin. But then as Jaws is racing Anakin in the pod race, he kind of like leans over into Anakin's car and tries to like bite some of the wiring to fuck up Anakin's pod racer. And then he just like spirals out of control. I think that would be great.
Could he successfully do that to another racer? Like he just bites their cable off and they're like, what the fuck? And then they're like, and they crash. Like, and then he tries to do it to Anakin and fails. That would be incredible, Nathan.
Oh
that
my
is
God.
the perfect point to have Jaws in the prequels. Now here's the thing.
Yeah,
where do we put Jaws in the sequel trilogy?
Okay, I've thought about this. Okay.
Where do we put him? What
I like to think is that, Kylo Ren kills Snoke. Snoke's gone. He falls off the throne, that kind of stuff. And Rey and him are like versing, the Praetorian guards. They kill all the red ones. And then they think they've killed all of like Snoke's defense, but then suddenly a door opens and like the last line of defense comes out. It's Jaws.
Oh man.
And
Kylo, good. What a fight
maybe
that would be.
Maybe it's even like mid-conversation where Kylo was just like, you need to let go. And he's just like, let the past die. And then suddenly like the door opens and Jaws steps out. And he's like, here's to us. And he just starts gnawing at Kylo's arm. Like Kylo's trying to like shake him off. Like,
I was thinking, what if like, in The Force Awakens when Rey has to like go trade scrap for like the quarter portions or whatever.
Yes.
And the window opens and Jaws is just there and he's like, 3 quarter portions. And then
he tries like biting into it, like the scrap metal that she's collected, like just to test it.
Yeah. And when like, the Millennium Falcon takes off, he like runs out after it and he's like, that's mine.
He's just shaking. Maybe he like throws his like teeth onto the Millennium Falcon and it's got a little tracker on it. He's like, oh, I'll find this. Like,
I just had another idea. What if instead of like the Raftars or whatever they are,
my
and
God.
like the tanks and the ship, it's just like Jaws gets released.
That'd be
So like,
good.
when how the one like gets stuck to like the Millennium Falcon cockpit when it like
Yeah,
blasts
yeah,
into
yeah.
hyperspace, it's like Jaws like on the windscreen
He's
like
just starfishing. He's just wiped off. Oh, that'd be so good.
Oh,
And maybe that's
good.
the way he dies. Maybe when the Starkiller base like activates its laser for the first time, he's caught in the crossfire. Like we just see that's how like Jaws perishes.
Or so we think.
Oh, maybe he's the spy, Brenton.
I'm the spy. Can you imagine Jaws? I'm the spy.
And they're like, yeah, that's his redemption arc. They're like, we know.
Yeah. And then like that one admiral like tries to shoot him or whatever, like with the blaster, and it just doesn't do anything. And he's like, oh shit.
No, he's the Phasma of that series. Replace Phasma with him. That's who he'd be.
Oh, well, that was fun.
That was great. Oh, Jaws. Well, speaking of Jaws, let's see what steals this movie.
Ooh, it's blinding.
This really is the George show, isn't it? It's like, well, there are only 2 films with him in it. Like, like there was this and then the last one we did. I forget, was it The Living Daylights or
Maybe. I can't remember what.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called, but I remember Jaws. Don't you worry. I'll never forget Jaws. What stills this movie is a segment on the show where either myself or Nathan or the two of us together, we select a single frame from the movie we are reviewing on the basis of it being funny, interesting, or just a beautiful piece of cinematography. Nathan, this week I chose the still, and it's Jaws about to face certain death as the cable car rams into the base of operations. Nathan, this facial expression is just everything we want.
Oh,
It's everything we need.
it's so beautiful. Like just like the sheer look of horror, and he survives. The best thing is that he survives this like clearly fatal thing. What? You know what as well. So there's a great interview with Javier Bardem, who plays Silva, the Bond villain in Skyfall, and he's on the Graham Norton show,
Right.
and they ask him what his favorite Bond film was growing up, and he said it was Moonraker, and he said the reason is because
Yeah.
like he was watching Jaws, and he was saying like, oh, everyone's meant to be afraid of Jaws. Javier Bardem was like, what beautiful eyes Jaws have. I sympathize with this villain. That's a quote from Javier Bardem. So, in saying that, do you think in this frame, Brenton, that Jaws has beautiful eyes?
Without a doubt.
Mate.
The windows to his soul.
Oh.
It's just absolutely gorgeous.
What an expression.
stunner.
Next time I get some bad news, I'm just going to pull that exact same face, Brenton.
It suits any occasion, really.
I wish this was a GIF on Messenger, so like if I just, someone says a bad message, I can just send that back. Just like, ooh.
Yeah, I think this is this. Why has this not become a meme yet?
Jaws himself is such a meme. And it's so funny because like he's also appeared in 2 other movies that we've done on this show. Like we've now reviewed
Absolutely.
all 4 movies that Jaws appears in, including Inspector Gadget and Happy Gilmore.
It's wonderful to see him pop up. That's all I'll say. It's
Oh.
wonderful to see him make an appearance. It makes our day every time.
It's so good. Bless you, Jaws. Would you want to see him come back? Would you want to see this character rebooted? Like, would you want to see him brought up again?
Absolutely. I'd
Yeah.
love to see him come back.
Yeah, I think there's been enough time between the death now. You can recast it. Like, just to see him come back. I would yeet. Could you imagine if in No Time to Die, like, they suddenly had Jaws in the movie?
Yeeting is a good way to put it. I would stand up in the cinema and applaud. Standing ovation.
Could you imagine if in No Time to Die, the big surprise would be like,
Nathan, don't fiddle with my expectations.
oh
my
no,
friend.
that's true.
It's-
You'll only be
it's-
disappointed at
you
that
know.
level. Well, speaking of expectations, hey, let's look at this film's poster.
Banter.
Yes,
Let's look at this film's poster.
but is it art?
To be honest with you, Brenton, I actually kind of like this poster. I kind of like the way it's drawn because it's like Star Wars.
Well, to be honest with you, Nathan, I kind of like this as well. And I'd just like to say that you can find both the still and the poster on our social media profiles. Links below. That'll take you to our Instagram page where you can check out all of this stuff we're talking about. But yeah, Nathan, what a nice piece of imagery, hey?
It looks beautiful. Like, this is definitely one of the better ones. And yes, maybe because it is a little bit like Star Wars, but I love the way, like, you know, the Bond girls are floating. And is that Jaws behind Roger Moore kind of coming in for the grab?
You betcha. Look at those suspenders. He's beaming down. He's coming down to deal some damage.
Oh, it looks bloody great. The one weakness I think that's with this poster is the tagline where it says, "Where all other bonds end and this one begins."
It is an odd slogan.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's referring to. It's kind of strange.
I feel like they should have just said Jaws is in this one, and that would have been enough to sell
Well,
tickets.
they do that because if you look down the bottom, it says starring Louise Shields, Michael Lonsdale as Drax, and Richard Keel as Jaws, and Corinne Glary. So Richard Keel as Jaws. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
That should be the big print. You know what I mean?
Yeah, forget Roger Moore. This is the Jaws movie. But it's funny.
Yeah.
It's actually that he's not more prominently featured. It's like, because he is such a popular character.
I know. It's crazy that he's so popular. I mean, it's not really. We love him to death.
Oh,
So
he's easily the best Bond henchman. Like, it's like him and Oddjob. They're probably the two most famous ones. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
because they're so ridiculous. I miss them having weird gimmicks. Like, oh, I want that to come back, Brenton.
I do too. Nathan, just on the back of that, I'd just like to say that I think I would put this poster on my wall. It's so good.
I think so too. I think it's like, out of all the Bond posters, I think this is definitely the most dramatic, maybe?
Yeah,
There's just
maybe.
so much going on. Like, it just looks so cool.
Agreed. I love it. Nice work. Whoever made
well
this.
done,
Well done.
poster designer. We should look this up at some point. We should actually see who makes all these posters for the films.
Yeah, agreed.
Night of our 150th episode, we finally twigged to maybe credit the artists.
Nathan, let's head to some title talk.
Ooh, it's the title.
Was there Moonraker in Moonraker?
I mean, the rocket was featured in... Wait, what is Moonraker? Is it the rocket that is stolen? Or is it like... Yeah, it's the rocket that's stolen, right?
It is. It is. It is the shuttle that is stolen. But this is the thing. Was there literally a Moonraker as in someone who rakes the moon in Moonraker? No, there wasn't. But there was the shuttle.
There was the shot, but I don't know why it is called Moonraker. It's a bit bizarre, isn't it? Like,
It is odd.
it's not like the moon isn't involved at all. It's just like, no, it's very confusing. And also, the shuttle doesn't play that much prominence. They just use it because, like, he needs one more ship to, like, shepherd everyone onto his little city. But, like, apart from that, like, it doesn't really do that much in the movie. So maybe they could have had a better title than that.
What would it have been? Bond in space? Space Wars?
A little
Bond
bit.
Wars?
But I want, like, the space have an exclamation mark at the end, just so, like, you know. There's a really shit title for a Bond book. It's like Bond Goes to New York or something like that. Like, I know that's the name of, like, a James Bond novel. So just, like, swap New York for space. Like,
Bond Goes to Space. It's like a picture book.
Yeah.
I could get amongst that. Why not?
or even bring, like, Jaws into the title, or make it like the Gravity poster, but just, like,
Yeah.
it's, like, just Jaws' teeth as he's, like, floating about, like, I don't know. Do you have a better idea for a title?
Bond Goes to Space along with Jaws.
Then I think you've nailed it.
Well, now that I have the power, I'd like to pass it to the people.
Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
So if you go to the tomato meter, or the tomato meter as I like to call it, you will find that Moonraker has a critical consensus of 60% with an audience score of 43%. Nathan, no. Why do we like the Bonds no one else likes?
I don't get it.
What is wrong with us?
Is the rest of the world just made differently to us, Brenton? I just don't get it. Like, well, no,
I think you
okay.
hit the nail on the head.
Maybe critically, sure, but look at by the way, this was the highest grossing Bond film until GoldenEye. So this like made the most money until like 20 years later when Pierce Brosnan came in.
Wow.
Because it cost, I know, because it cost 34 million to make and it made 210 million. So this was popular.
That's crazy.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that they abandoned space after this, despite the fact how much money it made them. Like, it is a little bit interesting in that sense.
Yeah, agreed. Jeffrey Lyles from Lyles Movie Files gave this a positive review and said, "It's easy to see why 007 purists would loathe it. Yet, somehow, Moonraker's special brand of absurdity makes for one strangely entertaining Bond adventure." That's a really succinct review there. I think that really sums it up in terms of like what I think some people, he's expressing what the other side, I guess, thinks, and you know, he expresses what we think, which is like, despite like all that absurdity, like it's really fun and it's worth a watch, and if you just suspend your disbelief, you'll have a great old time.
But here's the thing as well, like, I'm glad he mentioned the 007 purists, because who the fuck is this group, Brenton? Like, who genuinely watches like all 25 of these motherfuckers and is suddenly like a 007 purist? Like, by the end of this show, Brenton, we will be 007 purists by definition, since we've seen all of them.
Oh gosh. I'm not putting that on my CV no matter what.
Jesus, no, it'll make you lose a job if anything. But who the fuck watches all the Bond movies and genuinely stands by all of them? You know what I mean? Like,
I totally agree, yeah.
it's like being a Batman purist. It's like there's so many different incarnations of this. There's no like single definition that you can idly like stand by, except for potentially the original. It's like,
Look, I understand that people are passionate about this franchise, but at the same time, I would guess that, you know, a lot of these purists would not like my views on some of these films, and that's okay. Just because people like something and dislike something, you know, no one has the right to say to know the specificities of what it is, of like why a group of people like something, or more importantly, what is good for a franchise or what isn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
because like even movie executives fuck that up.
Totally. The audience will decide what they like at the end of the day, and that's what it is.
And also that sometimes makes bad product. Like the blatant fan service that you see sometimes in movies isn't always good.
Yeah, that's totally right.
Yeah. And honestly, as an audience member, I've loved franchises the most that surprise me and made me think, oh, I didn't know I could get that from this franchise. So like, that's why maybe we're standing by Moonraker, because it's so surprising. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna suck when we do our next Bond film and like it just goes back to the same old shit in a way. Because I'll be like, where's the space battle, Brenton? Where's my fucking laser equipped army?
It is quite sad, isn't it?
Not as sad as Coleccio Elnaldo's reviews from Confessions on a Greek Mind. He gave it 2 out of 5 and wrote, "Bond in space, that is all."
And gave it a negative review.
Yeah.
I mean, Bond in space, that is all. I'd give that a positive review. I'd be like, yeah, I'm on board for that.
Yes, probably spy movies, probably don't deserve to be in space, but then again, like, what else do you do? It's like...
Cole Smithy from colesmithy.com
Great
gave it
name.
a positive review and said, you know you love it.
Oh boy.
I know
Brenton.
I love it. Do you know you love it,
Oh,
Nathan?
Brenton, I think I know very well today.
Oh,
Oh.
settle down.
Jason D,
Calm down
2.5 stars, said, "This is something I have never seen in another movie. It is both a good film and a bad film at the same time. You just have to sit back and enjoy a film with Bond in space."
Thanks, Jason D. I like it that he gave it because it's both a good film and a bad film, he gave it 2.5 stars. So thanks for that, Jason. Thanks for being the mediator in this. Like we said, there's elements of this that aren't necessarily perfect. Like if you can see why critics wouldn't necessarily love it, but
Yeah.
sometimes a piece of entertainment scratches an itch that you didn't know needed a scratching. This certainly scratched me, and it scratched me good.
Oh dear. Oh, Brenton. Enough of that now. Put down the scratcher.
Sorry guys, I got a bit carried away there for a second. Ooh.
Michael H gave it 5 stars, Brenton, finally. And he wrote, "I am not ashamed to say that I love this."
Wow, Michael gave it 5 stars as well. Good on you, Michael. I love that you love this. That's awesome.
I like to think that Michael's like walking around the cinema being like, "I loved it." Like he's just standing up like Tom Cruise jumping on the couch, just like Moonraker's great.
Mazhar Nizam commented on YouTube and said, "I love the fact that the Americans had a team ready for this exact situation." I thought the exact same thing, dude. Like when that shuttle opened at the top and like all the jetpack
Oh my
troopers
goodness.
like came out and started
Yeah.
firing the lasers, I was like, were they just ready to go? Were they just like, it's a big process to launch a rocket into space.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like a whole thing.
Like-
You got to test the weather, make sure everything's equipped. Like,
It's crazy, man.
Oh.
Like, it was absolutely insane. And let alone they brought a shuttle with an army, of
Yeah.
astronauts in it. I was
all
like,
with their own little laser guns. And I love it as well when like the army goes back into their rocket and they're like, "Oh, do you think is Bond okay?" And they're like, "Nah, he's too far gone." Like, okay, fair enough. They can't just leave without him, like awkwardly.
yeah, I know. They just jump in and they just like yeet out of there.
Yeah.
And then we just watch them go and we never see them again. We're like, oh, thanks, guys. Thanks for the input.
Oh, bless. I love the Americans have that. It's like, oh, could you imagine if we end up having space warfare at one point? And they just like look at Moonraker as like training videos. This is how we bloody do it.
Totally. All right, boys. This is a greatest moment in American space history. It's like, wait, what? We helped Bond? It's like, yes, we did. wait, lasers exist? Laser guns exist?
In the 70s?
Keep that on the quiet. And finally, Juan Fina. That's no moon. Oh, wait, wrong franchise. Yes, we get the Star Wars reference. We get that this movie was made to compete with Star Wars.
I just love that it worked. Like, it ended up raking in money for MGM.
They knew what they were doing.
It would have been funny if there was like a blatant rip-off moment at one point. Like they did just generally copy the dialogue.
Or like some random aliens just like popped up, like they went into a bar and like Chewbacca was there. You'd be like, what?
I can so see if Disney ends up getting the Bond rights that they'll do that at some point. Just like...
Which at this stage they probably will.
Oh, no,
so,
Disney. Yeah.
Until then, that was Moonraker.
That was Moonraker. Oh boy, that we need to rake that moon, get some gardening tools.
Oh gosh, it's been well sown, that soil on the moon. So thanks for listening in. As always, tell us what you thought about Moonraker, our special friends out there listening into the show. We do appreciate that you listen in every week, and we do appreciate when you let us know what you thought of the film, what you think of the show. And like I said before, write in and if there's any other Bond films or any other films in general, any sci-fi films, any space films that you think we need to watch, please write in and let us know. Yeah, until then, I guess I just got to put in my Jaws denture and just start biting stuff. You know what I mean? Biting some black licorice, pretending it's a cable and doing some real damage.
Brenton, let go of my arm. I'm not licorice.
Oh, I thought you were. My mistake.
Ow! That's sharp.